Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm here to talk about Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 27. All right, so before we begin, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. All right, so we start the episode off with Jacob and Smitty at Orphe Jeans, and Lord. These fools is real life talking about this undercover operation at Orphe Jeans, all loud and stuff. So they talking about it. June comes up to give them coffee, and she's just like, "What y'all talking about?" They try to play it off, and then she's just like, "Oh, and here I thought y'all was talking about the impaler." So they're just like, "Oh snap, maybe she knows something." So they talk about Smitty gives him a breakdown of how the operation works and who's who and who's what and all this other stuff and just all of that. And it's again, y'all are out in the open. You're supposed to be undercover, Jacob. Like, what are we doing right now? So Jacob gets a call from the connect that he has to go meet. So he leaves, and when he before he leaves, he tells Smitty, make sure to talk to June and see what she knows. So June, Smitty and June, they talk, and he's trying to get as much information about the impaler, and she's like, "Sir, some questions don't need to be asked, and please be careful," basically. So she tells as much as she can, but she again tells him to be careful. So we see Naomi, and she's now at her new office. Um, the office of Garland, the law offices of Garland Hospital. So she's there because she just had a meeting with one of her clients, and she's what's it called? Ashley is asking her about it, and she doesn't tell her a lot. She tells her some, but not a lot because client privilege or whatever. So Ashley now starts to ask her, you told her, it's a good thing that your client's daughter knew about X, Y, and Z. It's a good thing that she told her family. And she's just like, so did you tell your family? And Chelsea's just like, no, I haven't. And she's just like, so when are you going to tell them? And she's just like, oh, we got a lot going on in our family right now, and da 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 da, and all this other stuff. And she was just like, but you need somebody in your corner. And she was like, well, I got you. And it's just like, ma'am, again, why have you not told your husband? Why have you not told your family? Ma'am, what is we doing right now? Like, I need to know what we're doing, because you really haven't told your family for what reason. Like, you're not making sense on the reason why you have not told them. So you just gonna, like, you real life not gonna tell them for how long? Like, when do you, like, at this point it's been what, has it been a month? Almost a month that you've known the truth, and you still haven't said anything. So will you ever say anything? At this point, that's where we're at. Like, are you gonna say anything? So they're talking, and as they're talking, Lynette and Haley come in, and they're screaming, "Help, help!" Because Lynette done punched this. She didn't punch the mess out of Haley, so Haley's face is like bruised or whatever. So they're what's it called? Ashley gets her into a room, and Naomi is talking to Lynette. She's just like, "Oh, how do you know her?" And she's just like, "Oh, her husband is doing my case. That's how I met." She finds out that that's the daughter, and she's just like, "Oh, you the model?" And she's just like, "No, I'm the lawyer." And it's just like, "Are you real? Like, you're a barely there lawyer, but whatever." Let me stop. So she's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna call my father-in-law, the chief of police, so he can get find out what happened." So, and she'll just like, "Okay, well, good, she good people. I hope everything's okay." And she'll just like, "All right, thank you." And she'll just like, "Oh, you should stay because they're gonna want to get to your side of the story." And it's just like, girl, where was you going? Where did you think you was going, Lynette? You really thought you wasn't gonna have to give your side of the story? What is we on right now? So we see what else happens? We see Dani, she's at the house with Pamela and Andre, and she's just like, oh, she doesn't know she's going to take the job. They're trying to talk her into it, and finally she says okay, and then she hurries up, and Pam hurries up and leaves to drop the contract because she's just like, you ain't gonna change your mind, let me go. So she goes. Her and Andre are like she's excited about it. So they're just like, okay, let's go have some fun time or whatever. So they're going upstairs, and then there's a knock at the door or whatever. So we seen Bill earlier. He was, trying to call. He kept trying to call Dani, but again, she didn't answer because Andre had rejected the call. So he gets a phone call from Haley, and he rejects it. And he was just like, I don't have time for that. So when we see the knock at the door, it's it's Bill. So when because Andre was just like, you go upstairs and don't start without me, I'm gonna go check who it is and send him away. So he goes to get the door, and when he sees Bill, you're just like, oh hell no. I was just like, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm on. So he opens the door, and he was just like, Chelsea's studio is that way. What do you need here? He was just like, I gotta talk to my wife and all this. He was just like, I know where it's at. My name used to be on a deed and before, whatever. And he was just like, oh yeah, when a man, supposed to take in the house, but you did do that because you cheated. And he was just like, get out of my way. I got to talk to my wife. And he was just like, your ex-wife. And I would have been like, your wife don't live here, boo. Your wife lives where you live. This is my wife. So miss me with that, sir. So, so they start to argue and get loud. And Andre was basically like, sir, So Dani comes down, and she's just like, what's going on? And she was like, Bill, what you want? He was just like, we got to talk about our daughter. So he comes in, and she was just like, what's going on? And so he snitches on Chelsea, like that's gonna do something. And it was just like, sir, why are you snitching on your daughter? Why you ain't let her give her good news? And so Dani wasn't tripping. She was just like, okay, well, she was just like, when did this happen? And he was just like, last night. She was like, okay, well, she's on her way over, so she's probably gonna tell me. And she was just like, thanks for being the biggest spoiler. You want to spoil something else for me? And he was just like, I'm not here. It's not time for your jokes right now. She's going down. She's about to go down the path that you're going down, throwing away her life for somebody else's dream. And I was just like, oh. And this is why I still cannot see it for Dani and Bill. Dani, you best not go back to this man after all the slugs that he keeps throwing your way, girl. So he gets the phone call from Naomi, because Naomi went to go check on Haley because Haley was in a room. Apparently the doctors came in and told her everything was okay, and they gave her ice or whatever. So Ashley was just giving her all the information. Haley came in to check on her and just basically told her, I called Chief Hawthorne. He's on his way down, and they're gonna find out who did this. And we're family. We stick up, even though everything's going on. We're still family, and we're here for each other. And I never want anything bad to happen to you or whatever. So she was just like, do you need anything? And she was just like, can you call your dad? Because I tried calling, but he didn't answer. So that's when Naomi called Bill, and Bill was just like, he told Dani and Andre what it was. They were just like, is she okay? And she was just like, I don't know, I gotta go. But Dani talked to Chelsea because she's going down the path that we did. And I was just like, well, yeah, she is going down the path. No, because she's not giving up her career. If anything, it's Madison. No, neither one of them are giving up their career. That was your trifling behind who told your wife or asked your wife to give up her career to rate so that you could become who you are, because she was already that girl and you couldn't handle that. So that's why you wanted her to stop what she was doing so that you could become that boy or that man. And once you became that man, you decided to cheat on her and then leave her for the newer model. And it wasn't even a newer model because, yeah, but whatever. So we see Madison. Madison is meeting Chelsea at the Grands, and Madison, as soon as she walks in, she's trying to tell Chelsea something, but Chelsea's just talking a mile a minute. She just yep, not even listening. So once she finally stops talking and Madison gets ready to tell her, Anita and Vernon come in. So she doesn't tell her. So They tell them about the engagement. They're all excited. They start talking about Denmark and places where they could get married in Denmark. And Vernon is just like, I've been on Duolingo trying to learn how to speak Danish and all this other stuff. And Chelsea's just raving about Madison going to Denmark and all of this. And Madison's just like, I'm not going to Denmark. She was like, Chelsea, please stop. I'm not going. And so Vernon and Alila leave them. And so she basically tells her, I turned down the offer because I've always wanted that. I've always wanted the life. I've wanted to get married, have kids, do all this stuff. But I was always the bridesmaid. So I hunkered down in my career. I focused on my career. And when you came along, it was just like, I can finally have it. So I'm not about to spend a year away from you in the ocean apart. So I'm in it. So yeah, I'm not going nowhere. So Chelsea's just like, are you sure? She's just like, I'm positive. So they kiss or whatever. And Vernon and Anita are looking at them, to the side. So we get back to Dani and Andre, and Dani is wondering if they should have took Bill to the hospital. And Andre is just like, hell no, he a big boy. I'm just like, for real, Dani. There you go again. What? And she was just like, oh no, I was just gonna call him. He was just like, but Chelsea and Madison are on the way. She was just like, oh, I was gonna call him an Uber. Like, no. And I was just like, no, you weren't. But whatever. So he was like, okay, so what are we gonna do? How are you gonna handle this? Because you're supposed to be surprised. And so Dani was just like, I can fake it. And then she goes, and I know they broke character in this moment because the way they was laughing. And Andre was just like, oh my God. I was just like, I was scared too. Like, what happened? But I love Carla Mosley. She is like a gem. Like, I love it. So Madison and Chelsea come over and she's super excited. They tell them that they're engaged and she's like, oh my God. Da, 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 da. And they're like, hugging or whatever. And then so she was just like, oh, should we pop the champagne? That's what Andre asked. And then Dani was just like, oh, before we do that, you got anything else to tell me? Anything about, and she was just naming stuff off the Nordic or whatever. And she was just like, how'd you know? And Andre was just like, he ain't say this, but this is what I said. Andre tells her that Bill ran his big ass over here as fast as he could to rain on her parade. Because it was just like, sir, you really ran your big behind over there and rejected your wife's call just to tell on your daughter. Sir, are we okay? Like, no, we're not okay. Clearly, we're not okay. So Madison and Chelsea tells them that they're not going to Denmark, and so they're happy. They toast to them being, the engagement or whatever. So we see what else did we see in this episode? Because I know there's some stuff I left off. I'm sorry. Okay, so we see Elon is talking to Haley about what happened, and while he's talking to her, getting her side of the story, Lynette is talking to another cop and getting her side of the story because, again, Naomi had told her to stay. And before the cop came, Ashley was checking on her, and she was just like, she walked away from her after she checked on her, and she was telling Naomi, she's surprisingly calm after what they went through. And so she's listening like, oh, snap, I got to act, So they both give their sides of the story. They being real extra. I'm just like, girl, y'all put it 20 on 10. Relax. But they, they gave they spill or whatever. So Bill comes in and Haley puts on the waterworks. He's going off on Elon, like, what you gonna do to find these people? Da 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 da, all this other stuff. And he was just like, I'm gonna do what I can do, whatever. He leaves them. He goes and talks to Naomi, and he's telling her, be careful. Keep your head on a swivel. People out here doing crazy things. If you ever need anything, just let me know. She's telling him like, oh, Jacob got me. I got every known thing, protection that I can't have on me. Jacob keep me covered. And he was just like, well, if you ever need, if you ever get bored, just come over to the house. Darlene, she raised a house full of boys, so she could always use some female company, get some estrogen in here or whatever. And she was just like, oh, my dad is not gonna let no Hawthorne out of his sight. And it was just like, girl, whatever. Go see your in-laws. Naomi's so annoying. So we see who do we see? We see what else happened? I'm sorry. We see Jacob, because he had left Smitty because he got a call from his connect. So he meets up with his connect, and his connect is basically telling him, like, you thought you was just gonna get in? Nah, you got to work your way in. And telling him, like, okay, so we got this one runner who thinks that he should be getting more money, and da 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 da. So you gonna need to do what you gotta do to let it, put the fear of God in him, basically, or whatever. And Jacob was just like, do I look soft? I got this. I was just like, sir. Just because you put on a hat don't mean you don't look like a cop. Let me stop. He didn't. But yeah, so Jacob was just like, I'm ready. I'm ready. So we see Bill and what's her name? Bill and Helly. They're getting ready to go home, and she was asking him, like, where were you? Da 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 da. He was just like, oh, I had to take care of something. She was just like, I feel bad. They got my engagement ring, and he was just like, it's okay, we'll get you a new one. We see Andre and Dani again, and they are. I don't even have that picture, sorry. But we see Andre and Dani again, and Andre is telling her that Bill ruined the surprise. Bill ruined the surprise, and he's finding any and every excuse to be in her vicinity. And he's not gonna let Bill derail her career again now that she's, now that she's back in it. And it's just like, exactly, Dani. Please don't let this man mess you up again, especially because you're not with him. So they start making out. We see Lynette is at Orphe Jeans, and she is holding Haley's ring out like this. And June sees it, and she's just like, oh, that's a nice ring. Oh, my friend lost her ring a while back. Make sure you don't lose it. And she was just like, oh, this is, I'm keeping this in my sight. I'm not letting this slip through my fingers. I was just like, oh, Lord. So then the episode ends with Jacob meeting back up with Smitty and telling him that, what his connect told him that he got to do. And Smitty is just like, are you sure about this? Like, this sounds dangerous. How far are you willing to go? And Jacob was just like, I'm willing to go as far as I can to prove myself. And that's how the episode ends. I was just like, all right, Jacob, don't get clapped out here. Be careful. But that was the episode. Get down in the comments. Tell me what you guys thought of the episode. I thought it was a good little decent episode. Again, I am not, the more that Bill talks about his relationship with Dani, I am not feeling them getting back together. Because no, sir. You will not come in my house and shade me behind a decision that you wanted me to do to make you a better person. No, sir. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you know whenever I post. And I will see you guys in the next one.